Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. I'm your host Steven Jodarand. Joining me as always, Jake Watroba and Armand Kafai. On this week's episode of Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, we discuss meaningless games in MLS and promotion and relegation. We react to the news that the Columbus Crew will be staying in Columbus, hashtag save the crew. Plus, Antoine Latran calls in to chat about what's MLS like overseas, save the crew, and playoffs. Finally, it's another edition of the Counterattack with Jake Watroba. Please, listeners, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. You don't want to miss out on your favorite soccer podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Unc Sam Soccer Pod. Like I said, show on any podcast platform. Leave us a 5-star review. Let's get to today's show. How we doing, guys? Jake, how you enjoying the snow in the middle of October?
Yeah, it's BS. Let me tell you something. This week has sucked on many different levels for the great state of Minnesota. Just want to. You have snow. We have
Minnesota United.
You bleep and need me gate. We have Minnesota United fighting Colorado Rapids, losing 2-0. We have Spitgate with Harrison Heath spitting on some Colorado Rapids players. Let's see what else. What else do you guys want to know about? You have the snow.
You've said that. At least you're not Colorado where they're under like multiple inches of snow.
I mean, it'll all melt this week. I'm not too worried about it. I'm sure the same will happen in Colorado too.
Yeah, that is typically what happens after it snows. It melts.
Not all the time, Steven.
Ooh, hit him with the changeup.
Yeah. Anyway, Armand, how you been? You're going to we're recording before the game tonight. Tell us about it a little bit.
Yeah, so the U.S. women have a chance at qualifying for the World Cup, like today, if they beat Jamaica, which after going to both press conferences, I think the Jamaican coach kind of just knows, like, we're going to lose. It was one of the most not bizarre. I think it's pretty normal, but I think he just was telling us about his players. Because, I mean, none of us are really familiar with the Jamaican national team, women's national team. So he's just telling us about his players and not really much about the game. I think they're really playing for that third place game, which probably is going to be Panama, Jamaica. And that'll also give them a chance to qualify for the World Cup. But, yeah, man, I had to run around in the rain to try to walk into the women's national team practice, and they decided that it's a closed practice, so I wouldn't get to see the first 50 minutes. And let me tell you, their stretching technique is like A1. That's all I saw. All I saw them do was stretch. That's it. That's it. I didn't see them kick a ball. I didn't see them do anything. I just saw them stretch. And I looked at the press guy. I'm like, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah."
Did you talk to any of the players?
Nope, because they didn't tell any of us that they were talking at a hotel. So I didn't talk to any of the players. No one communicated anything. And this is the problem with U.S. women's national team soccer, that they decided, they're going to tell a certain few people. They're not going to tell people who actually, want to help cover and expand the game. And they're going to complain why they don't get as much exposure.
The good old boys. It's the good old boys.
It's the good old boys club. Yep.
Wait, so I'm confused. Who controls the media access? And wouldn't it be a benefit for area reporters to get access to the team?
You don't understand, bro. It would be. That's the thing. It would be. I don't get it. It's supposed to be through CONCACAF, but no one sent anything to me, and I was talking to another journalist about it. No one said anything to us. It was a certain select few people. I mean, it wasn't until a press conference where someone was like, "Yeah, Becky Sauerbrunn said this today." And I was like, "Wait, y'all had media availability and you didn't tell any of us? Come on." It's a little ridiculous, and the fact is they want exposure for the game, and I want to help bring that, and other people want to help bring that. But if we're gonna, keep it hush hush and only tell a certain amount of people, then you're gonna get what you're gonna get. I can't help you if you're not gonna tell me anything. And I've heard most people have the same issues.
This is a really dumb thing to ask because we're recording before the game and this will be published after the game. But how many people do you think will show up?
Weather's garbage. It's gonna be raining. I pray to God it won't. I think it might get delayed. I pray to God, and if you listen to this podcast, please just don't let this game be delayed. But it looks like it's gonna rain around 7, 8, 9. I expect maybe a few people to come for the Canada-Panama game, and I don't expect a sellout for the women's national team. I'd say 15,000, 16,000.
I don't ever really hijack the first segment, but I did have this on my mind, guys, and it's time to come clean here. I got to confess something. I was watching Copa 90 this morning, and one of the popular journalists was covering the St. Pauli-Hamburg derby. And they went on to Hamburg's history of promotion and being in the top division forever and then finally getting relegated. And I think U.S. soccer must at some point develop promotion and relegation because we complain that, MLS is very Americanized, and I think that is a detriment to how soccer could be viewed in this country. Look what people did with Save the Crew, the fan base. It saved literally the fans had enough noise and got something started to make something happen where the Crew now are looking like they're going to stay. It's not definitive, but it seems very, very likely, right? So promotion and relegation is more than just a business thing. I think it could really tap into the sports culture that we have here in America, or the lack of that we have here in America, and really grow something. Because I think it would be fascinating to see, if you had a team in Fort Worth that were in the third division, you have FC Dallas, right? And then suddenly they make some noise and they meet in the U.S. Open Cup. You start to, put some more fuel to the fire with sports rivalries, something that we're lacking right now in this country. So promotion relegation, I think, is really the way to go. And if all you MLS fanboys are going to, hate mail at Steven Jodorand this week.
Oh, wow. He's taking it on today.
I'm serious. It's just watching the Bundesliga and just knowing what it means to fans. And plus, let me ask you, Armand, FC Dallas played DC United. How many people actually cared that happened last night during the international break?
I honestly didn't watch it. I watched part of it, so there you go.
But there you go. So Colorado, Minnesota played yesterday for nothing. For what's the point of them playing? They should have never showed up. Jake,
I have never regretted going to a soccer game more than the one I went to yesterday afternoon.
At least the last 14 minutes were kind of lit.
Oh, I left as soon as stoppage time was announced. To be honest with you, no, I drove to that game and thought, why the hell am I going to this stupid game? It literally means nothing. There's no playoff implications. There's no relegation implications. It's just two dog bleep teams.
Jake, can I ask you something?
Yes.
Do you think that game was one of the more embarrassing games in Minnesota United's history? In MLS, at least. I
don't know if anything will ever top the Atlanta United match, the snow opener is what we call it up here.
6-1, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because Minnesota United fans seem to be like, well, yeah, it's great. We were in MLS. Who cares that we lost 6-1? But I think that game, that the first ever match against Portland, that also was pretty embarrassing. Actually, that Philadelphia Union game was that last week or 2 weeks ago? Where they lost
4-0, 5-0, something like that.
That one's also very embarrassing too, considering there was still playoff implications. It's Minnesota United. There's a there's a list of just kind of embarrassing performances out there. So,
but
that ranks up, I guess.
Would it not be more exciting knowing Colorado's at the bottom, that they had something to play for, where the fans are engaged, and you might be like, well, Colorado's holding on to dear life. I'm going to tune into.
Well, yeah,
the game.
it would definitely add an incentive to the match. It's just, this match, like I said, there was a bunch of matches in MLS. I think, did we talk about this last week over just text? How there's a bunch of matches coming up that legitimately have next to no meaning. But there's also some matches that have a lot of meaning with,
you're right.
with the playoff system. I mean, Dallas, SKC, LAFC playing SKC also on decision day, I think. There's a lot of matches with that, but the problem is there's also a lot of matches that just literally have negative meaning, and I think that Minnesota Colorado game was one of the one of those matches.
We should.
Here's the.
Go ahead, Jake.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Steven. Here's the thing: these matches where you have Colorado and Minnesota playing each other, if the MLS draft actually meant something, and you were getting, these next generation players, kind of like how you see in the NFL or the NBA. If you were a team like Colorado, tanking would make sense, and you'd want to see your team lose. But because the MLS draft is kind of just, I don't know if crapshoot's the right word, or it's just kind of, it doesn't really add anything to your team the following year for the most part. Like these games are extra meaningless compared to if they would be in.
And Colorado doesn't even have their draft pick this year. They traded to Dallas, so. And the thing is, a lot of these teams don't play younger players. So, what's going on? There's no development.
Wait. But even if Colorado just put out a squad of U23s, I doubt people would watch the game.
You're not watching the game regardless.
Well, I know, but even if you're an MLS loyalist. A fanboy, do you really want to see your squad roll out the 23?
I would. I would argue I would, because I'd like to see, what we have in the pipeline coming up compared to the players that we're seeing
I would now. Too. Personally, I would too, but I wonder if it deters people to going to the game. But, here's the thing is, in the Bundesliga, you got kids playing all the time.
Weston, McKinney.
No, but they pump kids in all the time, and they make a point of emphasis with the youngsters to be like, here's our future. Here's the person that we think in 5 years will lead us to something. Do we see that in MLS? Do we see, Minnesota United, the New England Revolution, LAFC, LA Galaxy promote their 15-year-old or 16-year-old star and say, this is the guy that we want to build around? Who has the potential? Alphonso Davies with Vancouver. How much was he of a name 12 months ago to people across MLS, to the neutrals?
To the neutrals? It's a tough question. I feel like he was a little bit. He was rising. I think is the right word.
He was a rising star. But if he were in a different league, people would have known more of him.
It's like Efrain Alvarez, man. Have y'all heard of this kid?
The Galaxy?
The Galaxy, yeah. It's Los Dos. He's a Los Dos product. I think he has, 12 goals in 16 games for their USL team. And he's just scoring some remarkable goals at age 15, 16. And the Galaxy, in order to quote-unquote protect him, are refusing to call him up to the first team.
Protect him from what?
Why?
They said protecting him from media and expectations and stuff like that.
That's terrible. That's stupid.
I feel like Alvarez, honestly, at times is better than some of the options the Galaxy has offensively. I would like to see an Alvarez over, let's say, a Chris Pontius. That's nothing against Chris Pontius. I just want to see what Alvarez can do.
Think about it.
In that lab, maybe pair him with Zlatan. That'd be such an interesting dynamic.
That would be so cool. 15-year-old plays with Ibra. 16-year-old plays with Ibra. Be awesome.
It's something that we're missing. It's something we're missing. And I think it's because I think Cannon said it. I was talking to Reggie Cannon one day, and he said it best. And I actually threw it in an article because coaches are scared because they're like, okay, we want to make the playoffs super badly. They're scared. They're too worried about development.
Why is it that the New York Red Bulls can play kids constantly? Why is it that Atlanta United can throw out George Bello and Andrew Carlton? But you have some of these teams that are they're terrible and they still refuse to play the kids. I don't understand that, Armand. Can you, what's the rationale? You say coaches are afraid to, not get relegated because they can't get relegated? What are they afraid of?
That's the thing. I think they're just, okay, so they have this goal of making the playoffs at first, right? You don't, and for them, they don't think their academy is capable. I think that's the one thing That's what I feel like coaches in this league think. They don't think their academy is capable of producing talent that can play right now, and they don't want to see, and that's the thing, Jake, because I agree with you. I'm not arguing against you. I agree with you. They have nothing to fear. They're not going to get relegated. They're just going to be bottom of the table. They might get fired, but I mean, in Anthony Hudson's case, he's not going to get fired. In Adrian Heath's case, he's not going to get fired. He's got a vote of confidence from the CEO.
Just need 3 to 5 more players, and we're going to be right in that playoff chase next year, man. He has met expectations, let me tell you.
Yeah, well,
it's ridiculous.
It is a confusing league, and it got more confusing with the announcement. What was it, Friday?
Yeah, as you've all known, we've been covering hashtag Save the Crew, and Friday was a very hectic day. I was trying to work on a project, as a good college kid would try to do, but my Twitter was bombarded with just what's going on. Hashtag Save the Crew, blah blah blah, fake Grant Wall, all that good stuff. And basically what we found out was that there's a bid to keep the Columbus Crew in Ohio's capital, which includes the Haslam family, the owners of the Cleveland Browns, and the Edwards family from Columbus, who have entered negotiations with MLS to purchase the team. It's a development. They're committed to getting a stadium downtown, and Precourt's Austin FC will come in as an expansion side probably in 2021 if they get the agreement done with McCullough Place for the stadium. So did hashtag Save the Crew work, guys? Did it work?
I guess.
Because I don't think this is about the Crew.
I agree with Armand. I don't know if hashtag Save the... I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat. Can I put my tinfoil...
Wait. I would like to reframe all hate mail now targeted at Armand Kafai and Jake Watroba.
No, I don't think this is... Well, I mean, you can take this however you want to take it. I'm not sitting here I'm not going to take a dump on Save the Crew if that's what you think I'm going to do. That's not my intentions with what I'm about to do right now, with what I'm about to say.
Here we go.
No, I'm just stating my intentions, okay? I'm just stating my intentions. Save the Crew was a fabulous movement. They brought attention to what was happening with the Columbus Crew, with Austin, with what was going down in Austin, with Precourt Sports Venture and MLS. However, Tinfoil Ted has, I guess, I think one of you just called me, speculates that this was more so MLS and its owners putting pressure on Precourt to not push the Modell law, to not find out if that law would actually work. And when I mean owners, I actually mean owners in other leagues, such as the NFL. Now, if you look at MLS, how many NFL owners are in MLS right now? 6, 7?
Something like that. And if the Haslam, I think it'll add one more.
Well, let's name them off. Kraft,
Hunt, Kroenke,
Wilf. I mean, wait, dude, does like Ziggy Wilf as an owner of Nashville, does he have any say in the league right now, or does he wait until next year?
I feel like they have a little bit of say. A little.
I forget that Nashville is coming in.
Blank, Arthur Blank.
Is that 6, 7?
Paul Allen. Is Paul Allen on the Sounders?
I think so, yeah.
And then now you have the Haslams too. You can't tell me that some of these owners who have other franchises in other leagues looked at that Modell law and said, we like to hold cities hostage to get publicly funded stadiums. You can't tell me that they didn't say, maybe don't test this law. Maybe let's not find out if it works, because if it works, it's going to be on the front page of every newspaper across this country, and every state legislature is going to run to put that Modell law in place. And I think MLS was pressured into not pushing it and just said, screw it. We'll keep the Crew in Columbus. We'll just give Austin FC an expansion team, or whatever they're deeming Austin FC to be. Maybe the Crew are the expansion team next year. I'm not sure how it's actually. I've seen it where Haslam's had to pay the expansion fee to buy the Crew. That's potential. Like that's like the potential deal that has to be done to kind of finalize everything. But I don't know. To me, this seems like more of a MLS and his owners and potentially owners in other leagues not wanting to test the Modell law.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was meaning. I don't think this was about the Columbus Crew. I think we were all overlooking the battle. I think was it Stover or Mickey, one or two, who came on our show and told us, "Hey, this might have a little bit more importance than anyone else thinks. You might have other leagues looking at this." Because you're right, Jake. If the Modell Law was upheld and they voted in favor of the city of Columbus and the Modell Law, I'm sorry, but the cities, like I said, would be rushing to pass this through. And then what happens? You lose that leverage to push for a publicly funded stadium, and you can't use relocation anymore as a threat. So while like you said, hashtag Save the Crew did a fantastic job of raising awareness for the cause and being very very vocal about it, I don't think this is as much to do with hashtag Save the Crew as people want to make it out to be. I feel like that's a really logical conclusion, but I don't think anyone else is sharing our thoughts on that.
Doesn't Precourt get the last laugh here? Sells the Crew,
Yep.
gets out of Columbus, and gets his team in Austin.
Yep.
I mean, congratulations to the fans. They did what they did. They keep their team. Now it's their turn, or it is time for them to show up to make sure that they truly support the club and say that they're going to go to these games once the new stadium's built, or if it is built.
Correct. Yeah. It's on them now. It's kind of a weird. Not weird. I mean, look, they talk the talk. Now let's see them walk the walk. Let's see how they perform. They have new ownership. No more Precourt. And if Haslam buys a team, I was talking to someone else about this. I do believe that, hey, they should maybe revamp it back to the Precourt rebrand. The three little crew guys, maybe like modernize the logo a little bit and go from there. The problem is, remember how we said Austin's going to have a very tight microscope on them for attendance? That's gone off Austin. It's now in Columbus again, guys. Whether people like to say it or not, if Columbus struggles with new ownership, what can you say now? What can you say now?
Well, I mean, this is the gamble that the league's taking. I think Precourt. I wonder when Precourt originally announced how much of his lawyers told him the Modell Law is going to be an issue. And if the lawyers were smart and if they could have foreseen it, I wonder if Precourt, my turn to put the tinfoil hat on, by the way, if Precourt leaked it or they said, you know what, we want to relocate, hoping somebody comes and invests in the clubs and buys it for a ridiculous amount way over the market price that it's, what it was at before he announced that he's potentially relocating. Because the Crew weren't, it was not like they were worth a ton.
What was their value? Like an average MLS club, like 150, 140 probably.
I mean, I'm gonna Google that quickly.
In that range. Tinfoil Ted.
Yeah, I would imagine they're probably valued right around that dollar amount. I mean, Map Free Stadium it's not a new stadium, so it doesn't give them any.
Map Free Stadium is not even an asset, dude.
No, it doesn't add any value.
Get this. The Columbus Crew, this is according to Statistica.com, the LA Galaxy are $315 million according to this 2017 value ranking. You know who is at the very bottom?
Colorado Rapids?
The Columbus Crew at value of $130 million. It's less than an expansion fee.
So damn. And Precourt bought for 60.
And MLS just got somebody to essentially buy the Columbus Crew for $150 million.
And I guess, wouldn't you assume that there's a new stadium getting built?
Well, that was I think I saw in one of the
It's one of the caveats, yeah. Like they wanted to build that new stadium.
They've already been talking with Columbus lawmakers or the city or whatever about potentially building a stadium downtown.
And is Jimmy Haslam even a good owner to have? Like he's had his own share of legal cases.
I think if you're Crew fans, you don't care if he's a good.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers,
Right. Yeah, I think what you're happy about is for right now the Columbus Crew are staying in Columbus, And I mean, I don't like you said. Do you really want the Browns to own your franchise, considering the history of the Browns?
No.
People make excuses, but the thing is, I think with Haslam is he wants to be really hands off, and if that's the case, it's gonna be great. But guys, I don't know if I was talking to you guys about this, but I feel like the Crew, next year, I don't know what's gonna happen with the Crew. They're gonna lose their coach, who has been running things like a tight ship. He's made players that have been to like really good. Let's look at Giassi Zardes. Look at how he's turned it around from his days with the Galaxy. You can go with Justin Miram. God awful at Orlando City. Comes back to Columbus, looking fine, looking good. There's a lot of players that I think are a little system specific to what Greg Berhalter does, and Greg Berhalter is probably a top 5 coach in MLS. The fact of the matter is, winning produces attendance. A stadium can do all that, but if you win, people are going to show up. So, if we're looking ahead, do you believe in this Columbus market? Do you guys believe this Columbus market? Even if they struggle, that they'll continue to show up?
No, because it's not the interest of American sports fans to show up when your team's losing. It's just not.
That's a good point.
This is not European football where you have relegation to worry about, like in the case of Hamburg over the last decade.
Right.
You know, I mean, granted, you know, you have Stoke City last year, who, you know, the attendance dipped as the team struggled, and if, you know, as momentum built a little bit, you start to see the resurgence. But the moment they got relegated, nobody showed up for the games, pretty much. Attendance dipped.
Right.
The moment's the official announcement. But in American sports, your team sucks. I'm not going to go. What's the point? Mm-hmm. And that's the big worry. MLS is risking a lot here with staying in Columbus when they had an owner that said, I wanted to get out. And this has the thing is, this comes back to the fans and whether or not there is fan investment or interest in the sport and into this, particularly into the league. You know, people don't realize Colorado struggles with attendance. The Revs, at some cases, do because they're located so far out of the city limits of Boston.
Dallas, man.
Dallas.
Let's not with the obvious one.
Houston.
Great team on the field.
Houston is downtown, and they struggle. So there are multiple markets that have issues between connecting with fans. And Columbus, for the longest of time, we're one of those clubs. Let's not let's not just suddenly make Columbus Crew be out this fantastic fan base that's had all the support. No, the moment they got
at Steven Jodran on Twitter. Just want to remind everybody.
The fan attendance for the Columbus Crew has always been shit. Okay.
Yeah, lack of a better word.
It has, okay?
They're gonna hit you. You're gonna get hit with some graphs though, so watch out. You better be studying some statistics because you're gonna be staring at graphs. They're gonna be in your mentions all day.
We know you're not an analytics guy either, so you might want to brush up on.
Yeah, you might want to brush up. They hit you with the graphs. No, but teams always struggle. Like I said, the Columbus Crew magically aren't an amazing market. You know, in terms of. They're not like a Portland or Seattle. We shouldn't expect them to be, but they've kind of placed expectations on themselves, right? With the whole, you know, like hitting us with graphs and stuff. If in 2 years we're here with the same 16,000, what's excuse now? Is you are gonna blame Haslam for it?
Well, get this: 2012 MLS attendance. This is WorldFootball.net. Columbus Crew were 14th in the league out of 19. All right.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward 2015. Okay. Let's see.
Is that the year they went to MLS Cup? That's the year they went to MLS Cup, right?
The numbers don't lie. Let's see. 2015. Where did the Columbus Crew sit? 16th out of 20 teams in the league. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a great amount of attendance. Dallas sits at the bottom there too. Like, yeah, let's not kid ourselves. It's not like the Columbus Crew has had this fantastic fan base in attendance numbers. Okay? The last year is different. You can't compare the last year because fans were pissed. They wanted to send a message. There was this conflict inside. Go support the team and give them the money, or not, don't give them the money, but you don't support the boys on the field. Okay? There are markets in this league, particularly the 1.0s, that struggle with a fan connection. And maybe this puts
the kick in the ass.
maybe this is the jumpstart, and the Crew suddenly launch into a premier soccer town. Okay, we've heard it multiple times. Columbus is this historic venue. Mexico versus the United States. 2-0. The first soccer-specific stadium. Okay, you got your wish now. The Crew are staying. You can do all the talking you want, but if you don't act, it looks rather foolish. Anyway.
I wonder before you go, Steven, I wonder how many of those, I think, was it 11,000 season ticket holders that committed to that pledge. I wonder how many of them actually convert into actual season tickets for the Crew next year. I'm interested by that.
All right,
that's
at Jake Watroba, at Armankafai, at Steven Trotter. Anyway, listeners,
you're such a fraud.
Oh, I'm not. Unc Sam Soccer Pod. That's the one you want to hit. We all see it, so you can target all three of us. But I stand by what I said.
What a fraud,
Jake. Never mind. I'll tell you off the mic. Anyway, up next, we're going international. All right, listeners, as I mentioned, we're going international. So joining us right now is Antoine Latran. He is writer for Lucarne Opposee, based in the UK and France. Also a podcast called Culture Soccer, which is in French. So if you know any of our French-speaking listeners, you might want to check that out. Antoine, how's it going?
Really good. Yeah, I'm really happy to be there. Really love your podcast, by the way. And thanks for having me.
Oh, no, thank you. But we were just finishing talking about the Columbus Crew, and I think the three of us are certain that we're going to get some hate mail. So I don't know if we just give us your takes on everything. Obviously, being in a country or being in Europe where soccer is a lot different, the fans have a lot more of a say when it comes to their clubs.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was really surprised when I heard the news that the Columbus fan did find investors and that the league was okay with having them stay in Columbus. I was really, really surprised because the vision we have kind of US sports and in general, not just the MLS, is that business always find a way to win in the end. And I was really surprised to see that. But at the same time, there's one backdrop to the fact that the Columbus will stay in Columbus and Austin will get the expansion, is that that means one of the city, I don't know, like Sacramento or Phoenix wouldn't get an expansion. So that's another problem that the league has to face, because Don Garber always said that he wanted to fill the map of the US with all the expansions. And now he has like 3 franchises in Texas, and he might have to like maybe relocate one at a point to get another city, another soccer team in Phoenix, let's say, or Sacramento, as I said earlier, or Detroit too. So this is going to bring like a lot of problems, but I'm really happy for Columbus. The fans deserved it, and I'm really surprised, as I said.
It would be interesting to see what we do with the expansion. Armand, I mean, I think you and I were talking on the phone Friday about how there's the chance of them, you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to go 32 teams?
Oh, they're going to keep
teams?
going. I don't think they're going to stop. I think they're going to keep going. I don't see Donnie Boy says 28, but I see them expanding even more and more. I mean, the way they've been producing with the league, the structure of the league, it's more structured like an NFL, an NBA, an MLB, where, you know, you're going to have your 32 teams, no promotion or relegation, you're going to have your playoffs. You probably won't have every team play. I just see it following that trend, especially with Don's NFL background.
Yep.
NFL background. So I mean, that's just me. I mean, Jake, what do you think on that front?
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, that's definitely where it's trending, where it's gonna be a closed system. I wouldn't be surprised if they move to 40 teams or something like that, considering, you know, the game is only played, like this game isn't just played in the U.S. like baseball or American football or you know, so there's a much bigger talent pool to draw from since it's a world game. But Antoine, I wanted to ask you this: what you're based in England, you're also, you know, French too. What has been the international take on the Columbus Crew potentially relocating? Has this been talked about by other media members in England or France or even various parts in Europe?
It has a bit, but I'm not gonna lie. For example, Zlatan makes all the headlines in Europe, or Rooney, but like the Save the Crew, not really. Obviously, when you go on Twitter, even if you're French or British, if you follow one or two accounts dedicated to MLS, you'll see the news. And a lot of people actually got interested on what was happening thanks to Twitter, but not really on the newspaper on a daily basis. It doesn't really, like, no one talks about it. People were talking a lot about, like, what was the last relocation? There was
San Jose?
No, I think it was NHL or NFL, I can't remember, or NBA. Another sport relocation where people were talking about it because it was something that was happening a lot. But I don't think people actually cared about a crew moving in Europe, except the people that obviously are in Europe. I know, for example, a guy that's a Twitter account called MLS Shocker. British blog, really, really good one. And he followed that a lot. And a lot of people kind of know the relocation thanks to him, I guess, but it hasn't been talked in the general media. Just to come back to the expansion thing that you were talking about, I don't think the league will go to 40 teams as soon as, like, not in the next 10, 15, 20 years. I think at a point, maybe 30, 32 teams. They just have to slow down so that the USL team can probably catch up and really, like, solidify it. Also, they just restructure the USL. You talked about it in the last podcast. But so I think they're going to wait for a bit, 30 or 28 teams, wait for the other teams to grow so they don't get an expansion that wouldn't be prepared. And then maybe after 5-10 years, they'll start another expansion process going to 32, 44 maybe. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid theory. And in your own thoughts, Antoine, what do you make of the expansion process? I mean, we don't really see it anywhere else, but in America, I mean, what do you make of the whole expansion process?
I'm not gonna lie, I love it. That's why I love American soccer, because it's so different from Europe, and that's what kind of got me into it. It's just the league has to balance the fact that they need big cities. I don't know, like Detroit, or like they had with Miami. They need these big cities because they have a lot of players there, potential players. But at the same time, they kind of still need the small cities. Like Cincinnati isn't that huge, for example, but they still got an expansion because they had the fans involved. They had just good owners too. They really had. It was kind of a soccer city, whereas some other big cities aren't, and that's what I love about that expansion process, that they have to balance the two, but at the same time they can go to, let's say, 60 teams. So at a point they'll have to decide between which one will bring the most money and which one will have maybe the better fans and the better images on TV, stuff like that. So it's going to be really interesting what happens in the future. But I really do enjoy that from a European point of view. It's really different from what we have here. And it's just really weird that the league basically choose where he puts the team. It's a really weird concept.
Yeah, it is weird. You get a team, and you don't. But
yeah.
But the promotion and relegation, we actually, at the beginning of the show, we talked about it, how I believe personally that U.S. soccer must implement promotion relegation because in American sports we don't have it. And if MLS is able to flip that and switch the sporting culture we see, I think soccer in America would take off differently, and there would be a different fan base and a different type of, I guess, culture or passion behind the sport that I think you'd see more like you get in Europe. But from the European point of view, playoffs, no promotion, no relegation, I mean, is that a concept that, some people not like? I don't know.
I'm sure the owner of, like, the big leagues in France would love it, because that means, like, for example, I don't know, Lyon, Marseille, Paris in France, they would be forced to be in Ligue 1. So that'd be perfect, because you always get the biggest cities, the one that everyone watches on TV. The owners probably would love that. But no, in Europe, we love promotion relegation. The promotion relegation battles are really interesting. I mean, in the UK, the playoffs to get in Premier League are a really big deal. At the same time, when I talk about it with my friends that don't actually follow MLS, they'll just, I explained to them that basically a team like Houston could just play really offensive soccer without really not this. I'm not going to say they don't care, but they're not getting relegated. Like there's no, if that doesn't work, they can try another tactic next year. They have the time to be where they need. They have the time to establish the tactics they want. They don't have to face the fear of relegation, so they can actually give the public a really good and nice soccer. So that's a really good thing. And also, I must say, the US probably will implement promotion relegation in a point, I guess, but it brought so much stability. I don't think it could have kicked off like it is. Like it's growing so much. I don't think it could have if it wasn't for the closed system that you have in the US.
Antoine, I want to ask you this because in European soccer, we don't really ever see this outside of Leicester City winning the Premier League 2, 3, 4 years ago, whenever that was. With MLS, you kind of have this. It's set up to where you feel like any team can win MLS Cup. Where in, let's say, Ligue 1 or the Premier League, it's basically, in France, it's going to be either Monaco or PSG. Or in the Premier League, it kind of just rotates between Manchester City, Chelsea. Well, that's kind of what it has trended towards the last 5 years. Is that, as a European, is that something you would like to see in domestic leagues in Europe, where you can see a team like Lille have a chance to win Ligue 1?
Actually, it's so funny you say that because Lille actually won it 8 years ago, something like that. And before Paris got to the top of Liga and started spending a lot of money, you had quite a good, Montpellier won it 1 year, Bordeaux another year, Marseille another year. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the fact that PSG is just always winning. But in the same time, I don't think without PSG you would have, for example, we had a new American investor in Marseille. I don't think without PSG you would have that. Like you might need that locomotive to pull the entire league onto good tracks. And I think that's something that I also love about MLS is that, I know the Colorado Rapids are not going to win the league next year, but at the same time, you still have 3, 4, maybe 10 teams that could win the league. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't thought Seattle were going to make the playoff this year after the really bad season they had. The fact that DC is getting back in, the fact that, just to be fair, at the beginning of the season, I thought Portland would be number 1 in the West. Now they're struggling to get on the playoff. I didn't thought Dallas or Kansas would be that high. So that's what I love about MLS too. And I think if people get more into MLS in Europe, they would see that it's way more balanced, and that's actually better. But in Liga, you have a point. It is really single-handedly the PSG that always wins. But in the same, living in the UK, the Premier League is actually quite competitive between 5, 6 first teams. Maybe I know Tottenham never win, but they always get quite close to winning.
Yep.
Even Liverpool, even Liverpool getting really good for the recent years. So yeah, they're not the leagues I'm specialized in, but I gotta say it's really exciting, and I think European football could be better if there was more competition. That's for sure.
Would you be in favor of, like MLS has, a potential cap on, like not necessarily a salary cap, but maybe, I guess is a better word, like a transfer cap, I guess. I think where they wouldn't have to spend exuberant, where they have a cap on how much they could spend on transfers, try to balance out the field, or do you think it should just continue to be like this open market without any, regulation in terms of how much a team can spend?
I actually never thought of it. I'm not gonna lie. Now, the idea of having designated players or salary caps in Europe never crossed my mind. I know some clubs actually use it. In France, we have Saint-Etienne, who for a really long time had a salary cap within the club because didn't have them. They didn't want to just put too much money on one player because it could ruin them. But I don't think it would happen, so I'm not gonna. I never thought of it. I don't think people would like it. Owners won't like it, and it would never get accepted. I do think transfers are going they're rising madly recently, but there's nothing you can do. It's just the economy of the world. It's not just football. Everything is just rising. So yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. Actually, the only thing you could do, I support that idea. Some European coach wanted the transfer window to be way more cut, just a month or something in summer. I think just the month of July and shorten it. That's the word. Shorten it for a while, and I think that'd be a good thing.
That'll be interesting to see. I mean, I wanted to ask you, Anton. We had Callum Williams, the play-by-play guy for Minnesota United, come on, and he's a UK bloke, and he was talking about fans in the UK watch MLS, but how much people pay attention to MLS regarding to what's happening besides
Steven, let me tell you this before Antoine answers. I follow the FCD French account, which is a French account by some for FC Dallas, by some random fan, and I promise you he has more analysis than any US based fan I've seen. So just from my experience, I feel like some follow it really closely.
Yeah, that's the thing. You have like a Twitter sphere, which is really different from the real world. But that FC Dallas account you're talking about is doing an incredible job. Yeah, we have a community of French accounts actually. I used to run a Seattle Thunder French account for a while, but it's really different because you have people are following the league. Some people are following the league, but they're really rare. Most of the people are curious. They're curious because you could see like crowds like in Atlanta or LAFC or the relocation of Columbus Crew. So they are curious on that way. And also you have the kind of US, I wouldn't say love, but interest. The fact that there is this America kind of make people interested in MLS. I mean, for example, I think if you just ask a random person in France and the UK and ask them what's the better league, Liga MX or MLS, most of them would say MLS because they know about it. Because it wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be true, but they probably know more about MLS because of all the retired people and because it's the US. I know in France a lot of people actually watch NBA. The NBA, and so I think they are fascinated by the way Americans just take the game. For example, I know the paper I wrote that worked the most was an interview of the Las Vegas Lights president, and it's because he's taken such an American approach to the game that he actually interested a lot of people. But the day-to-day results, except from a couple of people on Twitter, I don't think people actually watch it. Also, the broadcast has been really bad in France. By Eurosport, but there's a duality between the fighter. Also, people think it's a bit hipster. I mean, people are interested in it. Every time, for example, this morning I actually played football with Seattle Thunder shirt on, and a few players told me, "Oh, that's quite cool. You have a Seattle shirt, and you see LA Galaxies or New York Red Bulls shirt around UK and France." But at the same time, they still think it's a retirement league because most of the headlines on the normal newspaper are about Zlatan, Rooney, as I was saying. But it could change. It could change because, for example, I know Italy kind of changed their mind a bit recently because of Jovinko, who went there way earlier than he should. I know in France we had Alessandrini, who joined quite early in his career. So it could change, but for the moment, there's still that duality between the fact that it's cool because it's the US, but at the same time, it's a retirement league.
Even, sorry, Jake, I know you have a question, but even with Gignac in Liga MX?
Yeah, that's, we actually, on the website where I work, we also cover the Mexican league. I do not, but a colleague does. And he's annoyed because every time Gignac scores a goal, it makes all the headlines, but no one actually cares about anything else than Gignac scoring goals. Literally, it's really bad because they always talk about Gignac, but they actually have no idea. No one ever watched a MX game in France. So yeah, and no one obviously follows the CONCACAF Champions League, so no one would know that MLS get beaten every year.
Yeah.
Antoine, one last question here before we let you go. We've heard Don Garber say this in the past, how he wants MLS to be a top 5 league in the world. Do you at any point foresee MLS climbing the mountain and being one of the top leagues in the world?
So people could laugh at me because of that, but I do think it could in, I don't know, really long-term future, like 20, 25 years, maybe 30, because it's the US. That's the thing. Like, Americans have more money than Europeans generally. Look at all the Premier League clubs. They're owned by Americans. You've got players that just want to live in the US. I mean, no offense to British people, no one wants to live in Manchester. Everyone just wants to live in Miami or Los Angeles. So yeah, I think it'll be in 20, 30 years because people do like the US and like what it represents, and they have the money and they have the power a bit. But yeah, no, I don't think in 5, 10 years it will be.
Well, Antoine, we can't thank you enough for joining us today here on the show. It is our shameless plug, so please plug your podcast one more time, where we can follow you on Twitter and your writing, although that's going to be in French, so Google Translate will be your best friend there.
Exactly.
Americans.
I write for Lucarne Opposee, probably maybe the only actual media that covers regularly the MLS. Write about like everything that's around soccer, everything that's cultural, but soccer too. On that, and I've got my podcast Culture Soccer for anyone who speaks French with a Montreal colleague called Anthony, because we didn't really talk about that, but we also have a lot of influence because all the Montreal fans speak French, so we have a lot of influence by them. But so yeah, that's my Twitter account, also Antoine Latran. And thanks for having me, guys. You're doing a great job. Really love your show. Been listening for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, actually. Yeah, a couple of months, and really enjoy what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Well, take care, Antoine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was an interesting interview. Definitely.
He likes our show.
Hey, Alexi Lawless liked our show, so I think we're on a good
I'll see him
trend.
today, so I'll say what's up.
Will
The
you?
pod. Yeah, probably.
Are you actually gonna drop the pod's name?
I always name drop the pod. I named drop the pod to Callum Williams. He said, "Yeah." Do you remember it? Everyone remembers.
He said, "Yeah, I don't listen to you guys, but yeah."
At that point, we were all like pretty pissed off because we're in the middle of a 4-hour rain delay or something like that. So,
No, but was there anything that Antoine said that's so good? I found it interesting that the jerseys there's this hipster type trend going on with MLS in Europe, but which I think is also fascinating because it's like people who watch like the Championship or the second Bundesliga or Serie B or the bottom divisions in Europe. I think there's that same countercultural hipster feel that I think MLS could tap into.
Jerseys, like obscure jerseys. I'm pretty sure it's one of them. I like that. That was one thing I took away, Steven. It was the jersey. It had to be. It had to be. I think it's interesting. People are like, "Oh, that's cool. Your MLS." It is a hipster thing. It's like me and my Hertha Berlin jersey I have right now. Like, it's a hipster thing, man. You just gotta get in the wave one day. One day you'll be on that wave of hipster jerseys, Steven.
I already have a couple.
Oh, I bet.
So, what about you, Jake?
Well,
hipster jerseys?
No. What your thoughts on the interview?
Jersey. Hey, but do you have hipster jerseys though?
Do you? That's a good question.
I have. I was gifted an Arsenal jersey, which as a Chelsea fan, I think that's a very hipster jersey.
What about the green jersey, the away days jersey?
Oh man, I don't even know what that club is called. I don't even know what like Davisstad or something. I can't remember. It doesn't fit me. It's buried somewhere. I'm like, well, I can never wear this jersey.
Hey, listeners, if you have, let's have a competition. Let's see if somebody actually tweets us. All to you listeners out there, most hipster jersey you have. Let us know what it is. Curious to know.
FC Wacker, Austria.
Anyway, my takeaway from the interview is I thought it was very interesting. I enjoy getting a European perspective on.
Am I not
MLS.
European enough for you?
No, you're not at all.
You're
fake accent.
America, you. I don't even know what the hell to call you. You're American. You're not European.
Oh, wait, I already swore on the show, so this is already going explicit.
Well, I'm not gonna. I like to keep.
Hey, we're family friendly in La Paz. I'm like you, Steven.
Hold a high standard to myself to a higher standard, Steven. So
okay.
I try to bleep myself when I can. No, I enjoyed the European perspective. I enjoyed listening to what Antoine had to say about MLS, what he thought about just kind of like the league as a whole in regards to the structure of it. The no promotion relegation, the playoff structure. Salary cap, things like that. I think it's always, I know the league's not popular in Europe, but I think it's always good to kind of hear from people on that side of the world, just what they think of soccer in this country after it's been looked down upon for so long, you know, in terms of, oh yeah, the U.S. they play hand egg or whatever they call American football, you know. So I don't know, hand egg, yeah, hand egg. It's the football. It's shaped like egg.
I've never heard somebody call American football handbag.
Hand egg.
Hand egg.
Your ears European too? What the?
You're a Euro snob to the highest degree.
Hate mail at Jake Watroba on that.
I kid. Jeez.
I know.
Right.
Anyway, let's get to the counterattack because we gotta get moving.
Let's go.
Fast-paced, shifty movement, brilliant skill. It's the counterattack with Jake Watroba.
So, what's going on?
All right, boys. It's counterattack time once again on Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. Got a topic or two here for you guys. Ooh,
I'm ready. I'm ready for another game.
First topic up for discussion. Sounds like Greg Berhalter is the favorite to land the U.S. men's national team job. What are your thoughts on that?
Armand?
I just threw up. Sorry. You have to continue, Steven. I just threw up.
No, I don't like it. Moving on. Seriously, I really don't like this move.
It's not a good move at all. We waited a year for an MLS coach. Come on.
By the way, if I'm Berhalter, I'm more enticed by the LA Galaxy vacancy than I am by the U.S. men's national team.
Why?
Why? Because I think LA Galaxy is a better springboard. With the U.S. men's national team, if you fail, you go back to MLS and then you are forgotten about. I think it comes to the point. We waited a year so you can get a coach that's been in MLS that you could have hired before the season started.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you guys this. Did U.S. Soccer drop the ball on not hiring or going after or pursuing him? And maybe they did. We don't know. But did they drop the ball on not trying to hire a guy like Thierry Henry, who was just hired by Monaco?
Yes. Or a Juan Carlos Osorio. Come on, man. They really
Henry would have done something because I think people would have respected him, but he's also familiar with MLS.
Yeah, he is. And so is Juan Carlos Osorio. I mean, these aren't like far-fetched options. People don't realize these guys are familiar with MLS, and we kind of just laughed at him and moved on. It's kind of ridiculous that we wait a year for a guy like Greg Berhalter, who we could have gotten last year, who could have been playing a system by now. Are we saying Berhalter's going to be a bad coach? No, but it's kind of ridiculous how slow this whole process has been. And this is on U.S. Soccer, and we were promised change and all that crap. Yeah, same incompetence, same BS, same bullshit. I'll cuss.
Wow. Okay, let's move on. Let's keep it U.S. Soccer related though. Guys, I'm waiting for your apology letters on Julian Green.
That is you.
No, Armand pissed off his dad a month ago.
That's so true. Forgot about that.
We didn't touch on the game against Colombia
because it didn't mean anything.
Because it doesn't mean anything. But quickly though, give me your thoughts on the performance. Give me your thoughts on Julian Green's performance.
The year of Kellen Acosta.
I don't care about Julian Green. Kellen Acosta is regaining some of the same runs that he would make at FC Dallas, kind of getting that form. Midfield is boring. Anthony Robinson makes the same mistakes he always makes, where he lets people go past him and try to let his pace catch up, and nothing else really happens. That goal by James was pretty good, but the U.S. literally allowed him to walk in and take a shot like that. I mean, come on. There's not much to take away from that game because we might not see half those players again with the national team. End rant.
Ditto.
All right, let's move on. Last topic here up for discussion. Quickly, give me your thoughts on Matias Almeida being named manager of the San Jose Earthquakes.
Ambitious, and I think we're seeing a trend of more, Latino-based or more prominent coaches coming to MLS because of the allure of the country itself, maybe not necessarily the league.
Ballsy. It is a ballsy move, but now they need to get the players. Because coaching only works if you have the players.
Spot on.
That is spot on. Well, that's it for the counterattack.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to wrap the show up. Can I wrap the show up?
All right.
Yeah, wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter, @UncSamSoccerPod. Make sure you submit Columbus Crew fans, I repeat, make sure you submit your hate mail to...
Hey, graphs. Don't forget the graphs.
And make sure you submit your analytical graphs on attendance to either at Steven Jodaran, that's his personal account, or at UncSamSoccerPod. He's the one who usually runs that Twitter account. So either or he will see. And we will all see, but more specifically, Steven will see. And he will be the one to respond to you. So make sure, again, follow us at UncSamSoccerPod. Follow Armand Kafai at Armand Kafai, at Steven Jodaran. Follow myself at Jake Watroba. Don't forget, leave us a review on iTunes. Good, bad, whatever. Leave us
No. We want only good ones.
Only good reviews.
Make sure you download the show, undownload it, and then re-download it just for the boost.
And you know what? We're also, beyond iTunes, we're also on iHeartRadio, Stitcher,
the store.
And anywhere you find a podcast. So for Steven, for Armand, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.